Greetings, people of the internet. This is Scott with CircWorks. It's Friday. You know what that means. It's time for Fan Art Friday. So this week I am wrapping up my series of Kiss sketches. And last but not least, we've got drummer Peter Criss. Let's get to it. All right, so here we go with what is most likely the final sketch in the series of Kiss sketches that I've been doing for the past this is the fourth week now. I kind of just wanted to round it up with the four original members of Kiss. I don't know if I'll get into doing any of the other ones this time around, although I have done those sketches in the past, and those were fun to do. But looking to move on to something else. But so anyway, when I say last but not least, yeah, I mean that because I think Peter Criss, the drummer for Kiss, was, I don't know, for whatever reason he was kind of always my favorite. I don't know. I just dig the cat persona and everything, I think, and I don't know. It was back when I was a kid, and I've talked about this before, but even before I listened to Kiss, as far as like their music or anything, to me they were just, they were in the comics and everything, and they were just kind of larger than life, almost like superheroes and everything. So, my friends and I would, everyone would pick their own character, and of course a lot of kids wanted to be Gene Simmons or whatever because he blew fire and all that stuff. But I don't know, I always gravitated to Peter Criss for whatever reason. I think because there was they at the time when they were in their heyday. I mean, Kiss was like on everything, lunchboxes, all that kind of stuff. But I remember these folders, like, I don't know if they were like Trapper Keeper folders, because it was probably before Trapper Keepers came out. I don't remember. I don't know the timeline exactly, but they had like these folders that you would bring to school and stuff. And there was this one with this shot of Peter Criss, and he's like standing there, and it's like this kind of smoky set, and he's got these chains, and at the end of these chains there's these like Black Panthers, and I always thought that was like the coolest thing, But I recently found that picture online, and the Panthers look so fake. It was kind of funny. It's like these big stuffed animal panthers, but as a kid maybe I just didn't notice that, but I just thought that was the coolest thing. So anyway, yeah, Peter Criss is always like my favorite, and I didn't have like a lot of that merchandise. I would either like see it like in the stores or whatever, and I kind of like fawn over it. I always wanted they had like these Kiss dolls of each one of them, and I always thought those were cool. And they're probably like they weren't Mego. I don't think they were Mego. They might have been. I think they were a little taller than like Mego dolls, but they were kind of the same thing. And I always thought that'd be cool to have those. But yeah, most of it was just like I'd have friends who'd have like older siblings or whatever, and they would have Kiss stuff on their walls and everything. And yeah, it was just really cool. But again, they were just like superheroes. And then later on I started like getting into the music and everything like that. But and that's the thing I like about Kiss, as far as like as a band and with the music and stuff, is in a lot of ways it's kind of like the Beatles, where they all, I mean, even more so than I guess the Beatles, but the Beatles, they all have their own kind of personas or whatever. But I mean, it's mostly John Lennon and Paul McCartney that would do most of the the singing and everything like that. But there'd be songs by George Harrison and Ringo Starr and stuff like that. So they kind of all, it was like they were all a bigger part of that. But Kiss was even more than that, I think, because literally they each had their own personas. Obviously, you see with me drawing these, you've got the Catman and the Spaceman and the Demon and Star Child and all that. But they would all do, each album they would have a selection of songs with each one of them singing lead and stuff. And I think in general, I think they all did a pretty good job with their own covering their own songs and stuff like that. Peter Criss, I don't know. I always kind of liked his voice. It was a little more raspy, I guess. He did, like, I don't know if you've heard the song. If you're a Kiss fan, well, if you're not, then you probably haven't. But like Black Diamond, that was a really good song that he sang lead on. And then of course Beth was a big hit, and Hard Luck Woman, and he had another song later on called Dirty Living that I like. But his songs were, I guess, he seemed to be a little more influenced by like blues and stuff. So And I did go back and listen to his solo album, when they all put out their solo albums, and I remember it being better than I think it was. It was, it's cool in the way that it was very different from Kiss, but all in all, it wasn't great. There was some good stuff on there, but definitely, Paul Stanley, but Ace Frehley had the best solo album out of. I mean, when I say solo albums, later after Peter Criss and Ace Frehley left the band, they put out like actual solo, had the solo careers and stuff like that, and they put out albums and stuff too. But I'm talking about the ones that were kind of branded as Kiss. So, but yeah. So yeah, the cat persona is really cool, as you can see. I'm trying to figure out something to tie into each one of these. As you can see, I just put some claw marks in the background here, but yeah, when I was talking about the that image of Peter Criss with the Black Panthers and everything. I don't know if after that I was always like into like cats and stuff like that. Like then that movie Beastmaster came out, where I thought it was supposed to be a Black Panther, but it was like a tiger that they painted black. Because if you look real close, you can see the stripes under it. They like dyed it or whatever. But I guess it was supposed to be. I guess it wasn't supposed to be a panther. It was actually supposed to be like a black tiger, which obviously this is a fantasy world, kind of like a Conan type story. And that's another one that movie that I really like. I wonder if I should do a Beastmaster. I don't think anyone's clamoring for that, but like a Beastmaster fan art. But I kind of like that movie. That was just one that I saw over and over and over again as a kid. And looking back at it, it's definitely. I mean, some of it's kind of corny, but some of it's really good. So as far as for the time and what it was and everything, but I guess I kind of drifted away a little bit from the drawing at hand. But yeah, it's cool to kind of wrap up these drawings. I did a series like that before this. Kiss drawings before, and I think I'll probably throw that. I'll throw an image of the ones I did before. It was a little bit of a different style, but it was kind of fun. And with this one, and I'll throw it up. I'll try to insert it here if I can. But yeah, so this one I actually did like not all four, 6 of the characters that actually had makeup and everything, and with the Vinnie Vincent character, I might even want to reimagine this, but I might not do a fan art Friday, but just for myself. But with this, I like the costume I did. This wasn't the actual costume, but I mean, I would have loved to see this more, because he was kind of influenced by this Egyptian Ankh symbol, but I thought they could have always done way more with the costume, because when you look at the costume, it's just kind of, 80s, leather pants and the boots and stuff. I just thought it would be cool if they incorporated that a little more. So I might do like a sketch or something like that somewhere down the road in kind of this new style that I'm working on here. But anyway, yeah. So what else? What else I was going to say? Oh, so as I was just trying to figure out how what costumes to use, because over Kiss's history, they've had different costumes and stuff, and usually it corresponds with like a tour or album cover. But I think the 2 most iconic kind of groups of costumes were from Love Gun and Destroyer, and that's probably because I think those, at least for me, those albums are the most iconic because they're kind of done in that kind of fantasy painting style, and they're similar in the way they almost look like they could be like sister covers or whatever, because I don't know if it's the same artist or whatever, but they're both kind of done this fantasy style, and I really like those costumes that they had on those. To me, that cover told a story a lot more than a lot of their other covers, those 2, the Destroyer and Love Gun. But so up until now, I've been doing all the Destroyer type costumes, and I was going to do it for Peter Criss, but this one's the one from Love Gun, and I kind of like it a little better. So even though they won't really match up, I guess I could have done 2 series, like one all the Destroyer costumes and then another one, but I just don't want this to become like the Kiss channel and that's it. So, but anyway, so I'm wrapping it up now. Thanks for watching. I will be back next week with another video altogether, something different. We'll go back into pop culture and pick some character that hopefully you guys will be interested in. But thanks for watching. Thanks for bearing with me while I kind of took my chance to do Kiss. If you'd like, please do subscribe. Please leave a message. message in the comments section, and like and do all that stuff. And I'll talk to you later. And that is all.